Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Builder Nation. For today's in-depth, we have Juan Necochea, Director of Partnerships at Mass Robotics, a nonprofit organization serving as an innovation hub for robotics. So welcome, Juan. Bienvenido to the podcast. We're super thrilled to have you here.
Muchas gracias. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Director of Partnerships at Mass Robotics. That means that I create connections with the large corporates to create symbiotic relationships between what their agenda is, what their strategy is, and what the innovation hub and the innovation ecosystem needs. And so creating that communication and moving forward robotics.
How long have you been at the company? I think I haven't asked you that.
No, so I've been with Mass Robotics. Actually, I'm coming up on a work anniversary. So this is my first year here, but I've been involved in the ecosystem of innovation here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, before with MIT and before with other startups and nonprofit organizations for about 8 years. So not a stranger to this space.
No, definitely not a stranger. I mean, congratulations on the work anniversary. I think that's great. And I know that you guys recently announced the participants in the Catalyst program. I think that's really interesting because in the last interview with Joyce, we didn't have the opportunity to talk about it. So maybe you can share a little bit about what the program is, how does it work?
Sure. So the Catalyst program is part of the programming we do with our partners around specific working groups. And likely we'll repeat the same things that Joyce said without a doubt. But within this symbiotic relationship that Mass Robotics has with corporates, we create a conversation with the ecosystem around specific verticals that are happening that may not have gotten the attention that they need, or maybe they have a great potential and therefore there's a lot of interest around them. And so around these specific topics, we create working groups. And that means that we stretch an invitation further than our partners, who are the companies we directly work with, the large corporates we directly work with, and past our residents, who are our startups that Joyce may have mentioned before. And so we reach out to the larger community and identify which ones are these big verticals that really need our help. The robotics community really need our help, or as I mentioned, are really thriving. Just for examples, we have the interoperability working group, we have a drones working group, we have an electric vehicles working group, and among those, we have a healthcare working group. And the genesis of that, as many other kind of markets or folks just kind of turned to during COVID, is that we all kind of asked ourselves, like, what are we doing to help? This is clearly a topic that we need to be really, really participative in. And, our partner Festo reached out to us and wanted to kind of lead or kind of begin this conversation around what does healthcare and robotics look like? What does the landscape look like? And so we began inviting the larger community. Right now, we are in the second cycle. So we had one very successful cycle with 4 startups in the first year. And now we are, our cohort this second year is made up of 7 companies. And interestingly enough, first year only with Festo leading us. And then this year, Festo's involved as well MITRE, Novanta, and Mitsubishi, mentoring these startups and helping them develop whatever technology they're out there. This comes out as a Catalyst program, as a specific programming around, what we thought was needed within the healthcare community, or how could we be at the service of the healthcare community. In this case, it's a Catalyst program, which basically we match these startups that, we make a call to the entire world. Actually, we had really interesting applicants from across the globe. It was really, really cool. Just seeing what folks are, first of all, how they understand, robotics and how they understand healthcare, right? We set some parameters, but, we looked at the landscape and saw what was happening. And we saw, everything from assistive exoskeletons to, automated lab spaces. And we chose the champions that we thought were best suited to our companies. And then it's a 6-month-long program where we help them develop towards specific goals and then showcase those goals in the Robotics Summit that's coming up in May here in Boston.
And now that you're mentioning how does it work, are there any specific requirements in order to participate?
Well, sure. So in terms of the application, we've already closed out this year. So we're looking at the next year, which will open up in the second semester for applications. We're constantly reshaping what those parameters are in terms of where you are in terms of technology. What we usually are looking for is for you to have some kind of working prototype where you're kind of not falling heavily into software, and it's kind of not a wearable or like an IoT. We've set those parameters for it to be more focused on robotic things, and especially, it's not to discriminate against other efforts within that space, but rather it's more about, what we as the robotics community can really strategically add value to. It's going to be those more hardcore robotic initiatives.
I cannot imagine all the prototypes you must have seen. Isn't it hard to find or choose a winner?
It was really hard because, the landscape is really interesting. We saw some activity there, some applicants that were really interesting. something, but it's sometimes where you have to sit down and say, well, I don't know if we could really add more value to what you're doing. So we created a criteria to be fair with all the applicants so that we could, create symbiotic relationships with the participants. And I think we have.
This is a great initiative. So you mentioned last year there were 4 participants and now this one is 7. So are you guys planning on expanding this program anytime soon or something like that?
We're learning as we go. Specific to this one, we're not looking to take equity as most accelerators do. We have rather specific characteristics where we are truly leveraging kind of the ecosystem of the working group and of our steering committee created by these partners that I previously mentioned. So we're kind of learning as we're going. And this year, it's actually been amazing. And, not just from our partners, but their connection to other organizations out there. And the working groups comprise about 200 startups, corporations that are kind of in the healthcare space. Their level of involvement varies from replying once to an email or just, really being there in every working group meeting, which is a wide invitation. I'll take advantage of this moment to say, anybody working with healthcare and robotics, we're happy to hear from you and bring you into the fold. And so what we've been seeing is we presented the startups and what their needs are and what their objectives are going to be during this Catalyst program. And we are seeing folks out of the woodwork saying, hey, my parts might be useful for you. Here they are completely free. We're shipping them to China. We're shipping them to Israel. We're shipping them to Australia. We have folks from all over. And also folks that from Australia said, hold the parts. I'm actually going to go to Andromeda, move from Australia to Mass Robotics, to our headquarters. And also Unlimited Robotics said, yep, I'll do the same.
Yeah.
It's really interesting just to see. So expanding as we grow and learning as we grow.
You mentioned or you talked about value, right? Adding value, that it's the key to the program. So how do you think Mass Robotics is making an actual difference in the industry?
There's 3 kind of main variables that we add value to, and we distinguish ourselves in the 7 years we've been around, and we base our model in 3 main things that we provide. One is that within Mass Robotics, we have the physical infrastructure to all the startups that come into our space. We call them our residents. We provide basically every robotic technology that they might need, and then when we don't have it, we lean on our partners, we lean on the ecosystem to acquire that technology. The second pillar, the second kind of value that we add is this kind of more of a network value where, we work directly with 40 plus corporate organizations that are either leaders within the robotic industry or, getting to know us or getting to know the robotic industry. And so we match these startups, we match these residents, right, with these corporates that are dealing with real market needs. Whatever it might be that they want to develop together, it's real market experience. And so when they're looking for investors, they can point towards, the work that they've done with P&G, the work that they've done with Mitsubishi Electric. And then finally, the other value that we add really to this equation is we stretch across, as I mentioned before, across our partners, our residents, but then in the entire ecosystem, more and more, we have become kind of a reference point to what's going on in the world of robotics. And so a lot of companies turn to us, whether it be from our programming of events, whether it be from, everything that's online in terms of the news we manage. So we're out there connected to that larger ecosystem. And so we're guiding and kind of developing or co-developing with everybody what the conversation around robotics is. And I think we are kind of that neutral point for that larger ecosystem to come together and have conversations. And so we become kind of this facilitator for the conversation to move forward in a really collaborative way.
I can just say that you guys are making a huge difference. I mean, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for explaining everything. And last but not least, do you have any advice for, future startups, entrepreneurs on the robotics industry, maybe CEOs, maybe directors of partnerships, anything?
To the director of partnerships, I say just simply, hey, I'm here, reach out to me. That will be an easy one. But no, I think in everybody, who am I to tell what your path might be? But I think it's something that comes from the ecosystem here in Massachusetts in general. I think it's, I've touched on it before, but for you to never underestimate the power of collaboration and for you to never underestimate how, truly together you go farther and how there are people out there who are willing to help and not in a transactional way, but rather in a transformative way. There's going to be folks out there that want you to succeed. Find them, either whether it be mentors or collaborators or partners, whatever it might be. There's a lot of richness in that collaboration. There's a lot of richness for you to open yourself up to that opportunity and for you to trust it. be mindful of who you're trusting, be mindful with whom you're collaborating with. But, there are spaces like, welcome to Mass Robotics, where you can find a lot of that collaboration and kind of learn how to develop that collaboration gene. So that would be my suggestion to all.
Thank you so much for being here. Where can we find you? Where can people connect with you or with Mass Robotics?
So with Mass Robotics, you can connect with us at massrobotics.org. If you're looking to develop a partnership with us, we have, all that information on the website. If you want to become a resident, which means you're a startup out there, you have your working prototype and you want to escape the binding garage where you're set up, or you are finishing whatever you're doing at your university and you want to kind of step out into the world, but you don't have the infrastructure, come to us. It's an inexpensive and truly, truly transformative way for you to take that next step. And then finally, myself, simply just reach out. It's juan@massrobotics.org. So looking forward to everybody's email, flooding it in.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here, for being part of this community. Remember, guys, that you can also find more information, interesting articles, interesting interviews, just like this one with Juan, direct on our website, controlhub.com/builder-nation. We would love to hear from you. And once again, Juan, muchas gracias por estar aquí. We love having you at the Builder Nations podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm a big fan.